Hello, this time I'm going to talk about shell scripts. This is a very big subject, so I'm probably going to break this up into multiple videos. Shell scripts are incredibly useful. They allow you to, for instance, string multiple commands together in a pipeline and do all kinds of sort of things. It's its own kind of programming language. It's shell because it's actually just using all these shell commands that we're using. So bash, it stands for born again shell. It's a type of shell that interprets user commands, and you can write scripts for it. And it's actually not as hard as it sounds because all these commands that you're learning can be used in a shell script. In fact, just as is if you want. So if you're really lazy, it could just be a series of commands that you would normally kind of enter in an order, a certain order. The advantage of this is that now you have it saved somewhere. You can always go back, you can see your methodology, and you can execute it whenever you want. So instead of having to remember what you did, instead of having to type these all out, just have them all together in a shell script and bam, now you can just always use them. So I'm just going to cover the bare bones right now, and we're hopefully going to get into more useful uses of this later. But why don't we go ahead and again change into this example underscore assembly. I've been using this a lot. And then I'll do an ls, and then I'm going to change again into proca report. So I'm just going to go kind of deep in here, and you'll remember these. These are some of the annotations and stuff. Now, what if that useful command I talked about a bit before, about how you could isolate those products? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to use it everywhere, like to have a script that you could just call that does it for you instead of having to memorize what I just showed you because that is pretty long? Well, we can actually do that. I'm going to use nano for this. There are different ways you can edit these scripts, but they end with a .sh, so make sure you get the extension right. It's usually important. So let's say, well, I don't know, how about extract underscore product .sh. I'm just going to open the nano editor on a new file because this doesn't exist right now, and I gave it a fancy name, and then I'm going to hit enter. It's going to be empty because we haven't added anything. And here we are, a blank canvas. Okay, so really kind of a shell script is just a glorified place you can put your commands in. I mean, you can get really kind of complicated, but we won't start there. So I would start with this, and I'm going to explain what this means. This is called the shebang line. When you go to execute a file, well, how does it know what it should be executing it with? Like, for instance, if you're executing a Python script, and you just say execute it, how does it know? I mean, it could probably infer for the extension, but maybe you don't actually want to use the extension to figure out how to run it. So this is a special line that you can put at the very start of a script, and it will tell it, this is what I would like you to use to execute my script. In this case, it says, what I would like you to use to execute my script is bash, so the bash interpreter. So then this is a comment kind of thing, a comment line. This is the shebang, and then what follows is the location, the pathway to the executable that you would like to use to run your script, to interpret it. So put this at the front if you would like to have it so that it will know what it should run with this script. And I'm going to hit enter, and now this is where you can put your stuff in. Now each line corresponds to a separate command. So for instance, if I just wanted to have a totally unrelated set of commands that maybe should be run in a certain order, and they don't need to be piped into each other, I can do that here just as easily. So let's just try that, something really basic. Maybe do an ls, enter, echo, hello, world. All right, what is this doing is it's going to first run the ls command, and then after that's completed, it's going to run the echo, hello world command. One after the other. That's it. That's it. And now you can keep adding more of these commands. So it's a nice way to get organized. You can put the things that you're supposed to run in your pipeline in here, and they're going to be run one after the other. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. Control O. Remember, that's how it saves. And then Control X to get out. Now here's the thing. We can't use it yet. I'm going to show you what I mean. In fact, you won't even try to complete. So I do not have permission to execute it. I talked about permissions before, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, because this is where it's going to come into play. So here we can see I don't have an X here. I do not have executable permissions. So I need to change that. So one thing I could do is chmod 7 2 4. Oh, here we get this confused. So 4 0. Yeah. Well, I'll say they can also read it. So here we go. What this is doing is it gives me the permission to execute this. So I'm setting that, I'm changing its user rights. And you can see now that's green, that's what we want. We can now execute it. So now, let me clear this. Now if I do this, it says run something from in here. That's what the period is for, because you're trying to disambiguate what you're specifying. Because maybe there's a command already called extract product in my path. So I don't want it to get confused and think I'm actually wanting to run that command somewhere else. I want to run the thing that's in my directory. And to do that, that's when you use a period followed by a / to say the thing I want to run is in this directory. Now, if it was located somewhere else, that's fine. You could just give the path to that. It runs just fine. But you need to do it for here to disambiguate that the thing is actually located in your working directory and that it's not some special command that you're running that's located in a bin or something. So here we go. This is going to actually run our script. Oh, there you go. So remember, we started with an ls, and there it is. And then we also had an echo in there, an echo hello world, so it did it one after the other. And you can get really creative with this because you can pass things called arguments to a script. Kind of like what we were doing with commands, because I could do something here, right? I could have a couple arguments here. Right now that won't do anything because nothing acts on those arguments. But we can customize our scripts so that they can be given arguments, and that's going to make them like way more useful. I can actually show you a quick example of this. It's not really as hard as you think. Let's go back into that script that we just made, nano, that thing. All right, what if I want to echo a variable? Like, let's say I want to echo one of the arguments that is passed. That's where these come in. These things right here, the $1, $2, etc. Those actually represent the arguments. So $1, that's the first argument that's getting passed. $2, that would be the second one. So if someone gives me an argument, I get to now print it by doing a $1 here. So I substitute it for this. Now let's go ahead and try that. I'm just saving it again, Control-O, and then a Control-X to get out. I'm going to try this again. Oh, well see, I didn't give it an argument, so it's printing nothing. Now I need to do something. So let's say hello. There we go. This time I gave it an argument right here. I could also do, again, notice I'm using these quotations. It's because I want this to actually be passed as a single argument. I'm using that to indicate it's a string, so anything in here gets passed as a single argument. And we know based on that little script we wrote, that's right, you're programming already, that it's going to print this. And sure enough, you look down here, and it does do it. So that's pretty cool. You can now also use this to have a script that maybe acts upon a file. So now you can have this whole pipeline defined by what you give it. So now I could have this, and this is what I'm going to show you. This is how we can make a useful bash script that can do what I just showed a few videos ago. So let me just clear this, and I'm going to kind of for reference show you the command we used before, and that was grep-o. I think I threw an I in there, and then it was a product. It's nice doing this from memory. I've done it so many times. And then I piped it, I think, and then I wanted to get rid of, I also wanted to filter out those hypotheticals, so add that to that. And I piped it one more time, and I remember that it was just to get rid of that nasty product equals. And then that's it. And then I have, of course, over here, I actually need to give it a file to act on. And then it just gets piped all the way down. All the outputs kind of go in a nice little stream. So I'm going to give it that proca. Ooh, okay, bunches in here. But you see that I use this command on that file. But now what if I want to save this somewhere so I can always use it? Instead of having to remember it, having to always type it again, here is how we can do that. And this is going to save you so much time, and it's also going to help you remember what you did. So you can kind of almost see how this is going to work out, because what if I had a variable, an argument, and I can put it in here. So instead of running this file, I could have like a $1, and then whenever I pass something to the script, well, then that's where it's going to be substituted. So, I'm going to just be lazy. I'm going to copy paste this instead of having to type it all out for you a second time. So I'm just copying. Now let's go back into that script that we were working on. I'm getting rid of these, and I'm pasting this. Now, sometimes you want to come up with these like ridiculously long commands. Now it's important to have this all run, because obviously this is meant to be some sort of piping where you pipe the outputs into these things. You can't have them on separate lines because then they're going to be interpreted as totally separate commands that you're running. So what if you wanted to have it a little more organized, because then this could like go off the screen, it could wrap around, it could be nasty. Well, if we want to make this all nice and pretty, we can use this right here, and what this will let us do is it lets you have something on another line and it be interpreted as still one line. So even though I'm adding these at the ends, it's still thinking it's one long line. It's allowed to do that because that's what this little backslash will do, is it's going to say I'm continuing on a separate line which should be on one line. Now it's important to make sure that you don't add some spaces after this. It's going to get confused there. Make sure that you just have a new line directly after your backslash so that it will know that the next part is supposed to be a continuation of this line. You don't have to do this. You could have had that one long thing. A lot of times I like to see how long it is. But this is a good way of being organized. So I guess I'll just go back to how I had it before. Just keep in mind that's an option. And it can be very useful for ridiculously long things. So here I am, bringing it back to this. Now the change I'm going to make is right here. I want to make this a modular script so I can use it elsewhere. So instead of having to name it that one file and have to make sure everything is named that, I could do this right here. Now if I save this, it's going to run that command, and it's going to take the first argument as the file it should begin to act on. And if you want, we can make it even cooler. So I can have it so that I have a second argument. And this is going to be the output. So now, not only do I have it so that it's going to print something, it's going to use that command, it's going to save it to a separate output for us. I don't have to do this because you can do it manually. And in fact, I would advise you to do that instead. But just know that you can string together these. You can have additional arguments. You can have as many as you'd like. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So we're just going to kind of do the bare bones here. It's just going to do what I had demonstrated before, but now it can be used on anything. So I'm going to X out of this. I had saved it, Control-O. And now let's test this out. It should do the same thing. In this case, I give it the script, and I then give it the thing I want to work on, because that's the first argument. I hit Enter, and look, it did the same exact thing. Awesome. And if I wanted to, I could have saved it. That's why I said you really probably shouldn't. You should give someone the option maybe to string this into another program or another thing, or just to redirect it their own. So that's why I said that we should kind of have it separate, so that now I have the option to save this if I would like saved file.txt, or I have the option to keep going and do something like another grep on it. You know, pretty modular. But there you have it. Now you have this convenient little script here. You can run it no matter what. You can move it around. You can point to it from a different directory. And it's this script you can now run. And the first argument is going to be the file it's going to work on. And there you go. It's all nice and arranged for you. I suggest using these whenever you can, because there's all kinds of benefits from using it. And maybe at some point I'll get into more complex uses of this. But for now, this should suffice, and have fun using it.